that's okay to date. I'm like, it's frustrating to like, I stop talking. He's not the only one. I stop talking to a lot of people who think that. I'm like, I'm not trying to change your mind. You're in deep in how you think.
Yeah. You know, what's interesting, that Aaron, you brought up, that they are talking about breeding out the black gene because
eugenics.
Yeah,
some people, they go very far with it. They just say we need to re-engineer black women, and you gotta
that's crazy. Well,
weed out this dago. They call black women daggles, straggle daggles.
Oh my God. Well, what I'm just thinking of is like, because in the white manosphere that are holding hands with white supremacists, their idea is they want it to be pro-rape, and they want to be forced birth because they want to force white populations back up so that they can maintain the majority status. So it's really weird to hear in some way that align a little bit.
Well, much of it at its core, a lot of it just really policing women's sexuality, which of course isn't necessarily new because I'm the historian here. I'm like, there's a long history of trying to police women's sexuality, but it's no different from the alt-right, which, there was people in the alt-right that date Asian women, but they just want white women to stick with white men. And it's the same thing in the Black Manosphere. They want black women to stick with black men, but they do advocate interracial dating for black men.
Yeah, that's crazy. And I'm going to have to splice in. I realize I didn't go live on YouTube. I mean, we're live on the radio, but so I'm going to have to splice in what we've already recorded before this. Whoops. Sorry about that, y'all.
Whoopsie.
Whoopsie. Now I'm just thinking of Mortal Kombat. Every time I make that sound, it's straight Mortal Kombat to the brain. Aaron, do you want to tell us about a few of the articles that you've written and like the focus of what these are, or some of the...
It's good. They're all similar. The first one I wrote, which is on a very obscure website called Occupy, I didn't really have a clear sense of what I was writing. So it was really about Black incels, even though Black Manosphere is in the title. But at that time, I didn't really know a whole lot about it. So in retrospect, I probably should have delayed that article. But if you talk about the big one that you'll probably see is the one I wrote on Medium. That's like a 2,000 word article that I got commissioned to write, which is thank you, thank goodness. So the reason why I wrote that is because after I wrote a short article on SYSBM, a young man named Skylar contacted me, and he just shared me his story, how he found a group, and I just saw how our stories are pretty isomorphic, and I just asked like, hey, can I, use this email correspondence to write an article, which actually makes it a little bit more personable. And he allowed me to, and I kind of start off with him, growing up in, he told me, he grew up in a major metropolitan area, I won't say where, and then moved to a predominantly white suburb. And I can't remember exactly how. Oh yeah, he went to college and started noticing how he was treated differently because of his race. Even though he didn't think much about race growing up, and somebody who didn't really grow up much with a strong Black identity, he kind of gravitated towards YouTube, and then fell into this whole manosphere rabbit hole and made many of the same observations that I did. And that article in general just summarized it from like a economic perspective, financial perspective, because sometimes when we talk about the manosphere, I don't think the financial aspects are emphasized enough, because I'm like, people are not making content daily, every single day for their health. They're making.
Can you tell us a little more about that? Because I have not included the financial position in the series so far.
Oh, okay. So yeah, when it comes to the finances, so originally I made a video on my channel called the Monetization of the Red Pill. So originally the manosphere / Red Pill started on these Reddit and these obscure forums and blogs. And just people just talking about dating. People say, oh, that's Red Pill, even though some of the stuff they say weren't all that original. When it got bigger and came on to YouTube in particular, especially spearheaded by the pickup artist industry, that's when you started to see more of a growing monetization of the space. So a lot of former pickup artists started making Red Pill content and using the same exact marketing strategies from the PUA community to the manosphere.
Yeah.
So
the PUAs especially. Oh man, they're like international millions of dollar industry, which PUA is pickup artist by the way, y'all.
Yeah, they adopt those same exact tactics and filter it to a Red Pill audiences. And when YouTube started doing super chats, which I don't think was on the website originally, that's when you start seeing people making more money. And as they grow, they start organizing conferences, writing books, creating Patreon subscriptions. and selling merchandise and even selling these courses. Or so they'll sell like an Instagram game course. Fresh and Fit are famous for that, and they charge like anywhere from $400 to $800 to get these courses that, of course, you can't save, you can't download. They're just like this online repository that you can watch, but you can't. You don't really own it actually. And they're just regurgitating content that they already spewed on their channels, but they make quite a good bit of money. In fact, you probably heard of Kevin Samuels, who died, and it was like a major news story. He made anywhere from $3 to $4 million within 2 years.
Yeah. Y'all might know the guy Roosh V, or what is his?
Yes, he's one of the most infamous characters.
Yeah. So I'm sure y'all, Zach and Taressa, have seen him. He's the receding hairline, olive skin guy. He wrote this series of books when he first started that he called the Bang books. And basically they are how to date rape or just straight up rape women from around the world. He would write them catered to each individual like society. And he made so much money. He's the guy. I don't know. You're on TikTok, Zach. Are you on TikTok, Taressa?
Mm-mm.
And they love to show clips of this guy just saying the same awful things over and over again. But luckily, last one I saw was Australian TV, and they're like, you know what? He's like, I didn't finish. And they're like, you know what? We don't care. We don't care. You're on our show. Goodbye. Mute him. Which is something he does he invites women onto his show and just to criticize. Neg, that's a favorite pastime of pickup artists, which negging is where you it's basically a manipulation tactic to try to make the woman be more interested. Like they'll be like, your friend's pretty, you're kind of pretty though. Or I don't know, you got a good neg over there, Aaron?
I don't know. Oh no, good like add-on too?
Yeah, well, like, something that like, especially the pickup artists, like one of the lines they'll use to neg a woman, like when they're trying to pick them up.
Oh no, I don't know. I didn't really. So when I came to the Manosphere, the pickup artist industry is so like examined that I didn't really even write or talk about it because I didn't have anything original to say.
Fair enough. But I'm wondering, Zach, other than being approached by YouTube for like Matt Walsh videos, like how often do you run into people who are trying to be like, hey, what do you think about this ideology, huh?
I mean, besides that, like YouTube, not often. I don't see it a lot on TikTok. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff I see on TikTok, but not really that. And I'm remote. I don't talk to people besides like going to the gym and going to the park. I don't talk to a lot of people, so I don't really get a lot of that in my normal day-to-day life.
More of a friend to ducks.
Yes. I hey, Mr. Duck. Hey, Mr. Rabbit. You're doing good, and keep about my business. Take a picture of a gator or two, and take care.
Yeah, Taressa, as you're hearing like a little more about these ideologies, I'm wondering, because like the more I learned, the more I was like, oh, I've had this interaction. Oh my God, some guy said that to me, and like now it's just like blaring, especially since it's been growing. Curious, have you been influenced in that way, or pickup artist, or?
I'm really trying to think. I'm not really sure I have, not like that. I remember an MTV show called The Pickup Artist.
Oh yeah.
I think that was VH1.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I remember this guy with this goofy hat.
Yeah. That's called talking.
I see some of it on Twitter, like in the Twitter comment section for something, like someone's talking about a relationship or anything. It's a cesspool. It's like, let me get out of here. I don't need to read any of this.
Now, have you read the Elle magazine article on the Black Manosphere? So the author contacted me because she went on a Zoom date, which I never heard that before. That's what she did. And she was talking to this guy. He started using this term hypergamy and all these various red pill terminologies that she vaguely read on Twitter.
Can you give us the definition of hypergamy?
Hypergamy. Well, there's actually a social science term. It pretty much just means marrying upper class, but in the manosphere, they just say that women are naturally hypergamous, so she will naturally trade you up for something better. Like it's inevitable. You can't do anything about it, which really doesn't understand how complicated human relationships are. But that's pretty much what they believe.
Yeah. There's like, so each of the factions inside of the manosphere, they're each kind of different. There's the incels and there's the pickup artists, as we've already talked about. There's the men's right activists. There's MGTOW, which stands for men going their own way, which to me is maybe the funniest thing they could label themselves, because in their forums, all they talk about is women. It's the sole focus of their work.
And I will say, in the Black Manosphere, you have SYSBM, Save Yourself Black Men, which I alluded to earlier, and you got ITMOR, Introspective Black Men of Reform, which I still don't really know what it is, because people call themselves that, but it's not really a visible or identifiable community online. It just kind of disappeared over the course of time.
Yeah.
But SYSBM is pretty big, though. I know what that is.
Yeah. Can you tell us like a few phrases that come out of these things so we can start recognizing these people? Like, I know a lot of times, like somebody will say something that just really hits me strangely. And then I find out later that's where it came from.
Oh, well, the most popular thing in recent years has been high value men. That was popularized by Kevin Samuels. He has this lengthy definition for what constitutes it. I don't remember every single thing.
Let's see if I can pull it up. High value.
Oh, high value man. You probably will see it. Yeah, he defines it as a man who has for 5 consecutive years made at least $120,000. Has a pretty large like social group where he's respected. And I don't remember the other 3 tenets because it was kind of lengthy.
Yeah.
So that's one. I'm trying to think what's something else they would say, because in Black Manosphere, I know they say a lot. They say queens. They call Black women queens, and they spell it kind of funny, but it's really like more mockery. Or normie. If you hear normie, that likely comes from the Manosphere as well.
Which a normie is
like usually a person who's a regular person who doesn't prescribe to red pill ideology or blue pill. It's a normie or blue pill. I get called that a lot. Sometimes I'm still confused. Like, what the heck is that?
You hear that in a lot of the anime community too. That's just people. They call people who don't watch anything normies, though. So it's a different context.
It's just a way to other people who like you're in the out group.
Yeah, actually, the Black Manosphere in particular, they have the term MAGO. So, and MAGO pretty much means anybody who defends Black women or quote unquote Black female effery.
Man. There is like so much hate for women in these things.
All online communities eventually create these very esoteric terminology. So I didn't send you a link, but I made a definition on Black Manosphere called a Black Manosphere glossary. Oh. And I have it. I have it. If I could share my screen, but I have it up because I can't remember every single term that I had down there.
I can make it so you can share your screen.
Oh, okay.
All right. There you are, co-host.
So there are people who walk around the street saying, "Hey, queen," and everything. You know, I never got it, but now that I know, it's like it's not endearing. It's you're talking about me. Yeah,
so you can see this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just created this. This is pretty much my observations over time.
So we are on the radio. Let's read a couple of these out loud.
Okay, so the Black Manosphere glossary. So I'll just read the more common things that you'll likely hear. So you probably hear like ABW, which is American Black women, or BAW, Black American women. Let's see, I don't want to.
Really?
Black female effery, which is a phrase coined by Mumia Obsidian Ali that refers to his belief that Black women exhibit unflattering behaviors that are unique compared to women of other races and ethnicities. And Bottom Shelf Becky, which is a stereotypical quote unquote low quality white woman that some black men allegedly date that have proximity to whiteness, often depicted as obese or an unattractive white woman.
Are these the white women who get dreads and black men date them and say it's okay? And
it depends. Usually they're just thinking like the stereotypical like obese kind of black woman or a white woman or a woman that just like conventionally would be considered unattractive. And it's also Bottom Shelf Brad, which is like the low quality white men that black women allegedly date and tolerate their mental and physical abuse just to have proximity to whiteness. Furthermore, it assumes that black women will lower their dating standards just to be with white men, but still hold black men to a higher standard.
Interesting.
That's
Oh, right.
one. And
These are so old. I used to hear this in high school. I didn't know this was still like around where they put it in like this, like they actually came up with definitions,
yes, it's
Oh,
very high schoolish.
Yeah,
And
it is.
the cleanup man, the community, the communita, that's how they say the communita, a term that describes not just the geographic confines of Black communities, but also the real and perceived attitudes held by Black people that the Black manosphere deems as self-defeating. And in some circles, they call it Blackistan. So like Pakistan.
Yeah, Blackistan, yeah.
yeah. I think something to point out that a lot of people don't realize, like we're kind of laughing at these people, but we're talking about millions of people who are now like reading these forums, listening to these things. They are organized. They are very organized. And it is very easy to say specifically the incel community is absolutely terrorist. They are considered terrorists by the CIA because they do have a history. A lot of these attacks, like they won't quite say it, but the attacks that are attacking women, these are terrorist attacks in the name of their work, and they'll even put it in their manifesto, and then of course they'll make the manifesto impossible to find unless you want to go onto the dark web, because there is so much of these ideologies reaching the top, which is why Trump was able to win. He really started, they think he was speaking to them, like, oh, he agrees with us. Oh, he does grab women by the pee. So obviously this is normal. Let's, this guy's, 27 sexual assault accusations. Like, what a cool guy. Like, they're not bothered. In fact, some of them are delighted.
No, that's true. The president of the Manosphere, Anthony Dream Johnson, will self-declare president of the Manosphere. He only voted for Trump after the Access Hollywood tape. He was pretty much voted for third party, but then once the tape came out, he started supporting Trump. Admittedly. Yeah, that's the white guy though. Anthony Dream Johnson's white, just FYI.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other terms, hyena, that's how they use to describe on Black women.
God, that's just like so racist. Like the racism's coming from inside the house.
Well, there's also N-word with the hard ER, bitch, which that's a term that some people use in the space.
I've heard the Hotep one that you have.
Oh yeah, the Hotep. Usually. So the thing about the whole Black manosphere, if I jump to pro-Blacks, they don't really like pro-Blacks. So, and the definition I put is a group of people seeking to uplift Black people and culture, but often lacks inclusiveness regarding sexual orientation, identity, as well as opposed interracial dating. But they don't really like pro-Blacks because the Black manosphere is pretty conservative and it believes that like racism is overblown, unless it happens to them, which is kind of funny. But they also accuse Black people of constantly playing the victims. Like I said, there's a lot of contradictions in those arguments, but that's something they believe. So they really do not like these pro-Black, Hoteps, Black nationalists, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, well, I wonder if it's because, the manosphere in general, the white manosphere is so closely holding hands with the white supremacists that, there is a lot of racism inside of it. So, I mean, if they're agreeing with all the subjugation of women, then maybe like I'm asking or assuming like maybe they're just taking on some of this racism and like maybe these guys are right.
Think about the Black manosphere, which is crucial to note, is that a lot of the people in the space originally came from the quote unquote white sector. The only reason why I split off was largely because of like white men's indifference or reluctance to address race, as well as the manosphere's growing allegiance with like the alt-right. So that's the only reason why I broke off. And that's why they sound so similar at times. Yeah,
but that's interesting because they're also seeming kind of anti-Black.
It is. Yeah, it really is anti-Black.
That's so.
Usually when it comes to Black people who hold anti-Black attitudes, like some of it they might see themselves as being exceptional, so they'll make a distinction between them and quote unquote those Black people. But that's not unique to the manosphere. You can find attitudes like that going back centuries.
Yeah, you're
so high school. I can't even believe a person who's like as old as me is really still using these terms.
Yeah, they're not only using these terms, they're invested in the community and as an identity.
That's what I mean too. It's like, I I know we used to say stuff like this to each other, like, as like playing and everything. I never ever took any of it so serious, like it's being took now.
Yeah.
When I first came across the space, I said a lot of this reminds me of high school, because a lot of people were complaining about stuff that I heard people just complain about in high school, like, oh, the girls didn't like me, they went for the quote unquote, the rough dudes.
Mm-hmm.
But these are like men, these are men who are like 35 plus.
Yeah.
Like maybe it's just you, dude. Like maybe it's just you. Maybe it's your whole demeanor and personality that you don't like. Like don't blame them. Like blame your pretty outlook.
Yeah. Blame your obnoxious demeanor and like unoriginal thoughts. You just like memorize all these terms and then say them again and then say, this is my identity.
Well, one term I have, it's funny because on the prom story, because Mumia Obsidian Ali is one of the quote unquote founders of the Black Manosphere. And the story he often recounts is when so his mother and sister tried to get him a date to attend the prom with their friends, but he deemed that their friends were unattractive, even though they had quote unquote attractive friends. So he rejected their assistance and got so frustrated that he skipped his high school graduation, left home, and didn't even like talk to his mother for over a decade.
Wow, that is not neurotypical response.
That's like when you just go too far. It's like you were offended that much you had to stop talking to your whole family because they just suggested you go with someone as a friend.
and that was it that person wasn't attractive enough, or it was their friends weren't attractive enough?
He didn't deem that their friends were attractive.
Yeah, it's not even the person.
I don't even think it's not that their friend was attractive. It's like, to his standard, the friend wasn't attractive enough to his standard. And it could have been attracted to somebody else, but yeah, I remember that type of story. Like, oh, well, you may like that girl, but it's not. No, I can't.
Yeah, me and him have like back and forth. And the only reason why I said a quote unquote founder, because one thing about the Black Manosphere that's crucial to know is that it didn't really start from scratch, and rather the people who founded it, they actually were kind of building off an online community that had already existed on YouTube since at least 2008, and before that had like vaguely existed on blogs and forums. So a lot of talking points literally just meshed these decade-old talking points with red pill terminology.
Yeah, I was curious when it broke off, because like I first became aware of the Manosphere during Gamergate. And has anybody here heard of Gamergate?
Yeah,
I have.
Yeah, Zach, you have?
Yeah.
You want to give us a little?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
So just real quick, the Gamergate movement was gamers decided not, they didn't like women entering what they considered their realm. And because I don't know if y'all remember, games basically used women as, either prizes or punching bags, and always scantily clad and hyper feminine, exaggerated features and whatnot. And so, well, first there was it Zoe, who she was a big one that her boyfriend said she cheated. Is that? I know Anna.
I don't remember.
I know Anna Sarkeesian. Yeah, Anna Sarkeesian.
She triggered a lot of it triggered off of one of her articles, and then it kind of went from there.
Yeah, Anna Sarkeesian. So she was the second person involved. She made a series of videos critiquing video games and the portrayal of women, and the men lost their mind because they liked it when there was like, I don't know, dead hookers hanging from chains on the walls as they walked through various hallways and games. And they liked it that, they were all hyper sexualized and hardly had any clothes. So they went after Anna Sarkeesian, and it was so bad. Like, she was supposed to give a speech in Colorado to a college course, but the response was so bad, they like threatened bomb threats and they threatened to kill her, and the police refused to do anything because they're like, oh, these threats are coming from online, so whatever. So she had to cancel, and both she and Zoe Quinn, who had been accused of just cheating on a gamer, they both ended up having to move because it was such a coordinated effort, which it becomes coordinated because of the manosphere existing. And that was in what, 2012?
Around
2012, 14, something like that.
Yeah.
2012.
Like, the gamer community is pretty toxic. Like I don't associate with them that much. I don't play that many games. Most games I play are like old PlayStation 1 games or RPG games, so I don't really associate with that community. But I know, like, Grand Theft Auto, like, one of the big selling points was like beating up hookers and taking their money back and stealing a car and riding off and going on more missions to kill people. Which, okay, that's
it's kind of a weird
very,
obsession. Everyone's like, it's fine, it's just a game, but like,
and kind of normalizing it too, like oh, it's fun in the game, like make kind of into a fantasy, like, oh, what if real life is like this? But
yeah. Well, to wrap back up out of Gamergate and to the Manosphere. So you were saying that around 2008 is when they started formulating. I'm curious,
15.
2015 is when the Black Manosphere. Okay. And was there like an event that caused that, or?
It's gradual.
Yeah.
It was largely just people gradually leaving the if you look at Bruce V's blog called The Return of Kings, you will see authors like Mumia Obsidian Ali and Donovan Sharp who actually used to write for that blog. But no, gradually they would just start shifting away and create their own space.
Yeah, and I guess that's when Trump's campaign really began too. So
that was another reason, because that's when the Manosphere started becoming very associated with the alt-right. If you look at the writings too, it does become a little more anti-immigration, portraying white men as a true victim of oppression, etc.
I just still can't get over how they truly believe that women are currently the oppressors of men. Like, can y'all think of?
That's not new. That's not new, because the whole Manosphere is just an offshoot of the men's rights movement that had literally just got a space online to just spread its message more widely.
Yeah, so I haven't gotten too much in the history yet, but the men's rights movement really started back kind of in the late 60s, early 70s. And it was actually originally like really nice because they were, wanting to undo gender norms. They wanted to be allowed to be emotional. They wanted to be allowed to be involved with the family and be fathers. And they wanted to undo these judgments. And originally they were like hand in hand with the second wave feminism. And in fact, one of the leaders of the men's rights movement, Forrest, I can't remember his first name right now. He was good friends with Gloria Steinem, but when by the 80s rolled around and like none of their problems were fixed, they were like, you know what, maybe it's all women's fault. And that's when it really started influencing politics. But what always drives me crazy is their main goal is to fight against women pushing for rights while not doing anything legislatively to try to help men. Because there are some issues, male suicide is higher, and I don't think in the beginning it was like this, but currently there is still a mother bias in the courts, which originally had really good reason because it was still legal to rape your wife until 1993 in many states. So there was a lot more violence, but that violence has been slowly coming back. I don't know.
Yeah, also the men's rights movement. I mean, usually journalists talk to them, MRAs often, because they're not as inflammatory. I mean, their rhetoric is still just bad, actually. I think they just do a good job at crafting their message. If you talk to them, they will not come across as all that extreme at all, even though they do have really obscene beliefs.
Yeah, that's why I'm like I mentioned, you get this slow, kind of smoothed over layer of the language up top. Jordan Peterson, for example, though I think he's a little deeper. And as you just like, it's just like a steady downward step. And all of that horrible stuff actually originates down in the dungeons of this and then finds its way back up into politics.
Yeah. I mean, some people do want to get political, but I haven't seen anything recently. Like, I don't see the manosphere in general getting political because they did come out and support Trump, but after he lost in 2020, they just kind of stopped talking about politics. And there were some people in the manosphere who actually did storm the Capitol. One guy like fled the country.
I would disagree. I feel like they actually have been infiltrating politics very well. And that's why we are now looking at Roe v. Wade being overturned.
So I actually disagree with that temporarily. No, because Roe v. Wade, that is literally about 50 to 40 years in the making from the religious right to undo Roe v. Wade. That's not really manosphere. That's definitely evangelical Christians on that front.
Yeah. So I would argue that, the docuseries The Family shows like the very strong evangelical movement that has been influencing politics that you're referencing. And if you want to watch The Family on Netflix, I super recommend it because Doug Coe and family have been so influential, and they literally don't care how bad of a person somebody is as long as they just pray for Jesus with them. And they've like narrowed their religion down to just 5 books from the Bible, and they call Trump their wolf king. And they are also inherently very anti-woman. Women are not allowed to participate in their meetings. They're not allowed to be part of any of it. And because of that, they've been able to shake hands with men from all backgrounds. And that's where I would say, like, because the alt-right, the men's right movement, the white supremacist movement, and then here the all-male evangelical movement have now found unity because, okay, well, you know what we could do next? Go after women's vote. That's my argument on why I think they're no. Does that sound reasonable to anybody else?
Not the alliance part. I just don't see them.
Oh, it's not a public alliance. It's just a general. They agree on many things separately.
No, that's a little different.
Yeah, that's all I mean is they're converging in their ideologies. Just
always like, if we go after this, then why not go after this too? Why not go after this? Why not make these decisions? Because they pretty much think women can't really use their brains and make decisions.
Right. So the evangelicals, like, they exclude women from everything. Women are just supposed to serve men, which it just so happens the male supremacy movement agrees with that. So when we look at the policies together, they're going to all support the same kind of policies that would disenfranchise women because they both dislike women.
Well, the weird thing about that, especially when it comes to the manosphere, like say Roe v. Wade, is that, you'll meet a lot of guys who will oppose abortion or, well, I would say publicly demonize women for getting abortions, but they have histories of encouraging women to get abortions when they accidentally impregnated them. Like one guy did it 3 times. He impregnated 3 different women and abortions.
Jeez.
Like politicians do all the time.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of contradictions in that. Even one guy in the Black Manosphere, who, if I could show you a clip of him, you probably would die laughing because this dude just gets.
How long is it? We can watch it.
It's like a minute. I don't know. Can I play it on Zoom or do I have to go on my phone? Because I don't know the Zoom.
Yeah, if you just pull it up on your computer and open up YouTube and share your screen.
Okay, but he's really adamant against abortion, even though he had a history of telling his girlfriend to get an abortion.
So I mentioned that the evangelicals called Trump the Wolf King, and they believe God only cares about the elites and that they can't do anything wrong because God chose them. So if they're chosen by God, you can't really question their methods because, ta-da, they're chosen. Margaret Atwood actually really kind of predicted this very well from the 80s when she originally wrote The Handmaid's Tale. She kind of foresaw like a lot of these ideologies evolving, which is why I love speculative science fiction.
I have the video up, so
when you share, make sure you share the computer audio, otherwise it won't go through.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, at the bottom left it'll say share.
Oh, share sound.
Yeah.
Okay, this guy, I'd be cracking up. It's a second channel I used to have where he would just go on these weird rants. So let's see.
Rich women will always have access to abortion no matter what the law is. They will always be able to get it. So forcing poor women to have children that they cannot afford even in the cases of rape and incest,
which is less than 2% of all abortions, you skunk leftist wench.
means the state has to pay for it, meaning your tax dollars.
Whoa. Why does the state have to pay for another person's child? What is forcing you to get on welfare and SNAP and Section 8? No one's forcing you to do that. Just like nobody's forcing themselves on you and making you have unprotected sex. You irresponsible fucking whores. Why can't you goddamn manage your vagina better? Nothing but fucking excuses and unaccountability from these devils on the left.
So
this is what Democrat ideology does to the mind of a young woman. It turns her into a fucking babbling nightmare bitch.
I mean, real quick, just to address that point, if the state is going to require you to have a baby, then the state has got to help subsidize the baby that couldn't previously be afforded. That is a natural, like if the state's going to force you to do something, I do think
they should help.
Yeah. Just on a side note.
Yeah, they're forcing you to do it. They got to give you some assistance.
Oh God, you know, the stupidest thing is Roe v. Wade, this is an entirely manufactured argument because the evangelical church actually used to be pro-choice, and they created this way to like divide arguments, and all of a sudden they brought it up again, and all these people who had kept their mouth shut and didn't really care, all of a sudden now that like it's back in the main, like, you know, like they might get to turn it over. All of a sudden people are just like, oh yeah, I was against it all the time. Oh, they're using this rhetoric that, oh, well then I agree too. Yeah, it is all your fault and blah, blah, blah. Like this was not this vitriol before. None of these people even thought about it before.
Mm-hmm. They feel if they don't say something, they're like, just, you know, like demonized for it. It's like, oh, I better have an opinion right now or I'm going to look bad. I think that's like your own conscience messing with you. Just go sit down. No one asked you. But since I'm here, I have to talk.
I mean, that's the guy's mantra. A lot of people, you know, in the manosphere, not just the Black one, but just the main one in general, a lot of people do, they kind of, I would say, admire like, style over substance. So I've seen people say the dumbest things imaginable, but because they're really loud and they're really passionate, people just think they're right. So that guy, that clip I showed, really loud all the time.
Just because you're yelling, you're right. Yeah, I yell so loud.
I had to turn my volume down. That was so loud. I was busting my eardrum.
Yeah, I have several clips of that guy.
Yeah, if you're louder, then that means you're right.
The louder you are, the more people are hearing you.
No, that's what they do. That's a second channel I had. I would just like, it's similar to Right Wing Watch. I would just hear the most ridiculous stuff and I would just screen record it and don't edit it, and I just play it unfiltered. And I have like over 100 videos doing that on that channel. That used to be my main channel, but the group almost terminated it, so I had to create a new one. And then I let that sit before I came up with that idea, just to post like clips that a lot of those videos I have on that channel are like now from videos that are deleted.
Oh, good. And you saved them. Haha. Haha. You can't hide what you said.
My
thing exists forever.
So many people follow, like when someone talks such nonsense, there's so many people behind. I guess like that's something I never got. Like lots of people will just follow anything. It just blows my mind. Like, or you sitting there being like, oh, I just wish something. I need to follow something. If someone starts talking and because they're talking loud or maybe hit 1 or 2 points, everything else is ridiculous. Maybe 1, 2 points got to you. And then it's like, oh, I need to follow this person. It's like, but what about everything else? How are you just so drawn to this? I never got that.
Well, yeah, because it's weird. In some ways, it empowers men, but in some ways, it also then, once they feel empowered to be in the group, then they get disempowered by each other, particularly incels.
Well, you know, it's interesting that back to Teresa's comment. So there was this guy named David Carroll, who when I came into the space, they would quote him all the time. Like, man, this dude must be saying something profound, because they quote him like he was like this prophet. And, you know, when I listen to him, I'm just like, all he does is complain about, you know, Black women and interracial sex, or Black women wanting white men, and all this other things. He's pretty extreme, actually. He even once advocated that being a Black woman should be identified as a mental illness. Just that's the kind of rhetoric he says. And and they listen. They kind of, you know, they kind of worship him. You know, I make a lot of fun of him. And when he passed away this year, it turns out that he was living in the same city I'm living in, Cleveland, but like in a poor area, collecting disabilities. Just pretty much living kind of like a pretty pathetic lifestyle. But they'll just tell you like, oh, we don't really care about his personal life or what he does. We just care about his message, even though his message is really hate speech.
I'm trying to pull up some of his quote. I
have various videos of him.
Yeah,
on that channel I just showed you.
He sounds familiar. I think I heard
He talks very slow. That's probably why I didn't.
He's very understandable.
No, he passed away earlier this year.
Like a guy something alone, like a guy died sad and alone. You want to emulate that guy? That's what they're doing,
right?
Is he a MGTOW?
No, he pretty much came onto YouTube and kind of like critiqued these the pro-Black communities. But he always been talking about Black women, but he just did it in writing, and then gradually he would start talking about Black women.
I feel like I really want to hear what Jason Black has to say about these people.
He doesn't like them.
Well, I imagine not.
Yeah. So do I have this? I can share my screen now. Yeah, I have one video. Like I said, he talks very slow. I always hate to listen to him.
And man,
Free Speech Avenger. Oh yeah, and just for context, this came from a Free Speech Avenger website. So it's currently under a federal terrorism investigation. So you know the subway shooting, right? The subway shooter.
Which one?
The subway shooter in Brooklyn. The guy who shot 10 people.
What was his name?
I honestly don't remember, but he's like a 60-year-old man, and he shot 10 people.
I feel like I remember this, and I'm trying to.
It's hard because so many mass shootings have been happening.
Yeah, there's so many.
When did the shooting happen?
Several months ago. I can't remember.
Oh, okay, that's right. It is the recent one. Okay.
Yeah, but just to make a long story short, he had uploaded videos on the site Free Speech Avenger, which is where this clip came from. And now it's currently under a federal terrorism investigation. So that was an alternative video sharing platform the Black Manosphere made to get away from YouTube's like community guidelines and restrictions. So, yeah. I'm just saying this is where this clip comes from.
Not that YouTube is like that hard on the Manosphere.
Yeah, but yeah, it
really are.
So this is the person that they considered an intellectual juggernaut.
I say me, I'm saying Black men.
I had to blur that out.
You elevate every other race, every other ethnicity over Black men, but yet you look to Black men and say you responsible for defending me. Explain this shit to me. Explain this shit to me that we are responsible to defend you even though you fucking abort and murder our fucking seed. The reason why you Black bitches lead the nation in abortions, you are aborting Black men's babies. We know you are not aborting no white man's child. No way. And I've done videos on this in the rabbit hole, pointing out and outlining for y'all that the majority of these Black bitches, that is what they desire. That is what they want. A mongrel, half-breed, dirty baby with green eyes and fucking good hair.
I paused it right there. So because that's a common talking point in the space. They're not as vulgar as he is, but they sincerely believe that, Black women would not abort a baby if it was conceived from a white man. So they quote him all the time on that.
Yeah, we're supposed to be a little better on language than that, by the way.
Oh, it's okay. I don't want to.
Yeah. This is actually a nonprofit radio station.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I mentioned that. My bad. I constantly, like, when I sit down to do the show, I have to look at the sign that says no cussing because these things make me mad. And I used to be in the Navy, and
Yeah, if you had told me that, I would have been more careful about it.
Yeah, it's my fault. It was, I forgot at first, and then I was like, oh no, wait a second, this last clip. Oh, I'm John. I hope you're not listening. My bad.
Okay, I apologize.
I know. I picked up. We have this like little bell, and I was like, I wonder if I could time it, but I don't think it would cover it.
It's okay. I have clips where people don't curse, but yeah, it's a lot of family in this space.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just sound so mad. Like it's just it doesn't sound like well, I guess to some people, it sounds like they're getting to the point, but for me, it's just like you are just so upset for, I guess I could just think about not getting the woman you wanted, like having a lot of women, Black women, I guess, quote unquote, ignore you. Like that's literally the thing. It's the same, like you said, the same thing. Like we go back to high school now. Usually, it's like, oh well, why don't you like me? Why do you like this popular? Like it? And now you're on. This is over 20 years later, and it's so funny because you didn't get over it. But sometimes you tell women to get over it. Like, oh, you've been hurt. This is why you can't move forward because you don't get over it. This is why you can't have all this you want and everything, or you can't find the man you can have because you can't get over that past hurt you went through. And it's like this guy is screaming, and you can just feel the pain behind his voice. Like, oh, you Black beep beep beeps, and you want this man. You don't want me. That's all I hear. You want him. You don't want me. You didn't want me. Like, okay.
Yes, for and like that's one of the most hilarious things to me about the manosphere. They're so angry at women, especially like MGTOW, and they're like, women are so evil. We're gonna leave them alone forever, and yet they just cycle and like their thoughts are consumed with women and how much they hate them and how much they've wronged them and how much sex they're entitled to from women. And like, especially incels, I wonder if this was part, in the Black Manosphere as well, where they were pro in Canada after McNasty, like a whole group of the people with him, were wanting to pass legislation that guaranteed that they would provide a certain set of like hooker women who would have to provide men with sex just because they can't control themselves if they don't have sex. Like they treat sex like it's on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And if they don't get it, then women, like it's their fault that women aren't giving them what they're rightfully due. And so of course they're mad because they can't survive without it.
So pretty much the entitlement to sex, which
truly entitled.
Really an entitlement to like one of because most incels at their core, they kind of just want like a girlfriend. They don't really just want sex because that's why they have the term escort cells, men who just sleep with escorts.
Yeah. I mean, well, and escorts do provide a wonderful service. They're like, I had a friend who was an escort and she was like, I guess I was like part psychologist, really wanted to talk, tell me about his day, have a nice date.
Yeah, for the incels, they just want validation. Actually, they just want a woman to truly desire them. But you can't force somebody to desire you, or you can't force somebody to be attracted to you.
Right. And nobody, and again, they'll just say like, they don't want to and work on themselves or improve themselves. They just want women to lower their standards, And
again, they're picky. It's like, I'm not saying, like, I believe there's someone out there for everybody, but it's like, you don't want, hardworking Kara over there. You want glammed up Priscilla, but
they don't want to give people a chance.
Yeah,
they have this romanticized version of what a relationship should be, and they don't want to settle or look for anything else.
Yeah, that's true. And it's like, okay, I can understand this person, but you're also not trying to, let's just put it, quote unquote, lower your standards to, like be with a person of more value. It's, you don't have to be with, like someone for looks. There's also intelligence, there's, connection, there's all this other stuff. But like, you're so upset you're not getting this certain type of person.
Well,
when you're ignoring
shallow.
other people. Yeah, very shallow.
mm-hmm. There a lot of the group, especially like PUAs, they believe that women are only good for fertility and sexual pleasure, and like otherwise they don't have any use for them.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty. I was
Well,
trying to.
I didn't mean
Oh
to
no,
cut
go
you
ahead.
off. The red pill. One thing about a lot of the guys who follow it, because a lot of them did follow my channel. It's mostly young, guys in their late teens, early 20s. I'm talking about the followers. Content creators are different. They're kind of socially awkward, but they're really just going through a phase in life that a lot of young men go into, which is just learning how to interact with the opposite sex. But of course, the main problem is that the red pill is only beneficial short term. You can find some helpful advice, but it'll only just teach you like short term. Like nobody in the group can even teach you how to maintain a relationship because they haven't emulated that themselves.
Yeah, I was trying to find some of these. A friend of mine's been doing a series of reading these like Tinder profiles and like their demands. One of my favorite tag groups is "I'm a man of mediocre credentials. Here are my demands," and like they list like must not have children, must not be overweight. I want straight black hair. No tattoos. Never have colored hair. Must never wear trousers, must not have college degree, does not identify as a feminist, under the age of 30, sometimes under the age of 25. And basically they just want to find blank women to dominate and enter into their world.
Well, that is a major talking point, the idea that men peak sexually in their 40s, and as they age, they can easily date women between the ages of 18 and 25.
Yeah.
I made a video about that. It's like one of my most popular videos I made where I was just kind of debunking that claim.
Yeah, you want to summarize that real quick?
Oh, summarize the video? Yeah. Okay. So essentially the manosphere, there's always been this talking point that there's this belief that when men age and when they get to like 40, 50, and 60s, that they peaked in the sexual marketplace. And that women start to decline once they reach the age of like 18 or 24 or 21.
Okay, I heard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's this YouTuber named Coach Red Pill. He created this very pseudo graph that kind of shows like when women peak and when men peak. And pretty much the idea is that when you peak, then you can go back to the woman younger and easily date them because they'll be attracted to you. Yeah, I made a video about that. That's a video Ashley doesn't have for family, thank goodness. But this is kind of fun.
I found another good one. Height requirement. Candidates under 5'8" will not be considered. Sorry, that's right. I know what I want, and that is me being upfront about it. Also understand I have a sense of humor. Most short guys do not. That's 2 strikes, and I'm sure the 3rd strike will be your lack of intelligent conversation. I bet it'll start with an insult because you're offended. I know what I want, and mostly what I don't want. A guy lies about his height. Not really into kids and not into ladies who take selfies while taking a dump either. I'd rather stay single forever than deal with someone else's kid. And maybe I will. And that's, I can't read the last word. That's it.
How many people are actually taking selfies on the toilet though? Like,
yeah.
I'm not pulling out my camera like while I'm on the toilet. Like that's not a thing, is it?
I don't think so.
It'd be weird because the mirror's right here. So how are you taking it? Selfie. Oh, a selfie. Oh, okay. Like, no, I think that's weird.
It was a weird one.
That was a weird one.
If you're on Facebook, definitely check out that tag group. I am a man of mediocre credentials. Here are my demands. And literally, like all their dating profiles in the about section, it's like what I want. We call it build a bee. They like want to go to this like store and build their lady exact to the demand.
Build a woman.
Yes. Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous.
I'm thinking those never get taken down. Like I'm not sure about dating websites. Do you take your profile down when you find somebody?
Yeah, I mean I'm sure they do, but pardon?
You can report profiles. They're like hate filled, or I don't know. I think you can report profiles. I don't know if they can take them down or not.
They never take them down if it's a white guy's profile. They're pretty much like, doesn't violate community guidelines. There was this whole TikTok trend where these guys, and here's the other thing. They often mask things as a joke, and you should get over it. There was this TikTok trend where men were posting, and the formula was like, what if I take you on, fill in the blank, wonderful date, and then at the end, you died. I killed you or whatever. And everyone's like, ha, ha, ha. Like, what if I took you on a date for a romantic steak dinner, and then during our walk, I drowned you in the water? Like, and they called these.
Where's the joke? Yeah. Where's the joke at? Where's the funny part?
Yeah, where's the joke? I don't get the joke.
And TikTok would not take them down. Believe me, I have a reel of about 20 of them. I had more, but I couldn't fit it all into one video. But yeah, does anybody else have anything on this? Because we can get into some of the current news and events.
No, I'm just still trying to figure out where the joke was.
I was really interested if you had a chance to look at your brother's watch history on YouTube, because I think it'd be fun to know what he's watching.
No, only the stuff about, like they said, the red pill, and then the other stuff I don't like. It's a couple other podcasts of really people I've never heard of and everything, and also they listen to other people's rants, and then they comment on it. And I'm not sure the names of them, but literally, I guess it's just 3 different types of groups that keep on coming up. I swear, if you hit their video, you get sucked into just a whole bunch of stuff, and it's usually the same people, and it's such clickbait.
I would suggest maybe even talking to him about what he's reading, because a lot of it is designed in order to suck you in. There are they've interviewed some high school students, some people who go around and try to do sexual harassment training and things like that. And boys these days literally think that they are more intelligent than women, and that's just a scientific fact, and their brains are better, and that it's normal for a girl to cry during sex because if you go and search porn, the first stuff that comes up is this very violent thing, and they're being sucked into the manosphere and learning all these things that not only are women dumber than they are, but somehow they're also conniving and cunning. So yeah, it's bad.
I mean, to throw all women in, I understand some people have went through this, but to throw all women in is just ridiculous. Yeah. It's okay, so I was hurt by this person. Now all women, they're all like this. There's none you can trust. Just use them. It's
that's YouTube in general. Even though we're talking about the manosphere, there's a group called Divestors, which is actually a group of Black women. They do the same thing to Black men, but they tend to use the N-word with the R-E-R, called Black men apes and dusties. I actually infiltrated one of their Discord group, and it looked like Stormfront from what they were saying in there.
Yeah. If you ever get into one of these forums because you just want to see firsthand, just lurk. Just lurk. Yeah. You don't want to accidentally say the wrong thing and expose yourself, and then the vitriol. Yeah. Just lurk.
But it's just so ridiculous. It's such a shift of thinking about a lot of stuff has changed. I think that's the one thing that really, interests me, because, when I hang out with my friends who are my age. So since we grew up around each other, we all kind of think the same. And then, I go to school with a couple, younger people, and I'm friends with 19-year-olds and everything. And I see how they think, but that's it's kind of different depending on, I guess where they are and what their values are. And then you look on YouTube and, social media, and my favorite, I always like to quote Love and Hip Hop. And it's where is this coming from? Where is this train of thinking?
Yeah, it's coming from this.
I'm always frazzled about the shift of how I'm not sure what happened, or maybe I was just studying too much in those years to miss this whole shift of everything, like all these people talking, and I'm like,
yeah, that's what happened with these social medias, particularly the anonymous ones, where the vitriol started and they started organizing, and they're like, oh, look at all those people who are alone. We all agree. We must be right. And it's grown.
Grown quickly.
And because, as Aaron mentioned, there is a lot of money to be made. It continues to grow and perpetuates, and it legitimizes it. And particularly when you get politicians start saying some of the same things that they say in like a cleaned up fashion. So it's a real mess and disaster. And not next week, but the week after, we will be going into detail about the incels and the pickup artists. And I should be including the timeline of the terrorist attacks and mass shootings by these people. So if you're interested.
I have a real quick question for Aaron. Do you think that it is because people really believe that, or it's because that there is money to get made from it? Like, it was an opinion, and it was like, oh, I'm just ranting, or I'm just trying to get something off of my chest. And then it became, oh, well, a lot of people are following it and I can make money from this. So I don't really believe what I'm saying, but I can get more followers to,
it's both. The majority of people who enter the manosphere come from a place of hurt. It's always after like a breakup, or just a rejection. It's I only met one exception. Everybody, like 99% of people I encounter, always came to the manosphere from that position. So initially, it's really just venting. They're kind of upset, and then gradually they start believing in the stuff they hear, and then some of them might make their own channels, and they're just really just venting at the point. But usually, what happens is that some people who do make money, that their views do eventually change over time, but they don't want to say it publicly because it's unpopular. Because I know guys who sincerely don't believe that men who reach the age of 40 and 50 can date 18-year-olds, but they don't sincerely believe that, but they'll say it because that's what's popular to say. So yeah, it's a mix of both, and sometimes they do sincerely believe in what they're saying.
Yeah, it's dangerous.
Shameless.
So, okay, well, and if anybody thinks of anything to come back to, this topic is still open. And if anybody listening has any other questions, I'm sorry, I hadn't been monitoring that. I just realized. Go ahead and feel free to ask, and we will be sharing everybody's contact information. So if you do want to be able to contact any one of these lovely people who have come to our show, you'll definitely be able to do so. And we'll include a link to Aaron's videos and a couple of his articles. So you'll be able to find that. I am thinking, why don't we talk about the Insurrection Committee? Did everybody get a chance to watch that last night, or at least clips since then?
Clips.
I've watched a few clips.
You knew I was watching it live, Taressa. We took it.
You're like, oh, I got to see this. Hold on.
Sorry, I'm not listening. 1 second. Yeah. Well, and I didn't realize it was going to be on. I was in the middle of a really nice long walk with my dog, and then I got back and I'm like, no, I missed this. I just made a video while I was walking about how I'm so ready to see this. So at the same time that I was started, I was complaining about not seeing it. For me, they showed a lot of the same footage we'd already seen. They say they showed us stuff we hadn't seen, but to me that seems kind of strange because when I was on TikTok at the time, and so many accounts were coming out like, oh yeah, we're going to do it. You just watch on January 6th. And they would mention specific politicians who back them. And to me, that we've had to wait this long to get anything when we even knew it was coming before it came, has irritated me. And then they had a little bit of non-footage. And I think the highlights are the depositions they showed. Zach, do you remember who they did?
I know Bill Barr was one of them. I think Ivanka had one where she was agreeing with Bill Barr.
Jared Kushner.
And yeah.
And can y'all tell us what the agreement was about?
Oh, well, that's easy.
Oh, it was. Go ahead.
Oh, that's easy. So, I mean, even I know you say you're going to talk about some current events. So, I'm usually a news junkie, but I didn't really get a chance to read the whole entire thing. But it pretty much just confirmed what a lot of people had already knew, that the closest associates to President Trump knew that there was no fraud in the election. But they just kind of went along to get along. But, privately, they knew that there was just no evidence to overturn to find these fraudulent votes that the president was kind of just making up out of thin air.
Yeah, I remember.
That's why Bill Barr said that's why Bill Barr said he finally left. Like, cause there was no proof of any tampering, and he kept on trying to push it, so he left. And then Ivanka, they interviewed her later about it, and she's like, I agree with Bill. I don't think there was any tampering. So there was that. And I heard there was some. I don't go on to show because I don't want to. But I've heard some of the Trump's like, oh, she doesn't know anything about politics, so she doesn't know what she's talking about.
Then why do you make her basically an ambassador?
Nepotism.
Yeah.
Nepotism.
Yeah.
That's why.
She's totally unqualified, but I'm going to assign her this job anyways, and then say she doesn't know how to do anything.
Oh, that's kind of easy. Actually, Trump actually kind of ran the federal government as he runs his business. So when he ran his business, it was really a family affair, having his children in certain positions. So he did the same exact thing when he became president. So that actually was not that different. In fact, actually, Margie Haberman, a New York Times journalist, she came to Indiana University and kind of spoke about Trump. And throughout her speech, I kind of noticed a lot of parallels between what Trump did in his civilian life versus what he did as president. So in his civilian life, he literally would kind of just play with the newspapers on who would get a scoop on a story, and they kind of would compete on who can just tell this the story about Trump. And when he was running for president, he would do the same exact thing by hopping different stations as well, so they can kind of fight to gain access to him. So I mean, if you know Trump the person, it's kind of easy to see how a lot is playing out when he was president. This is just a historian to me. I can't help it. I'm kind of nerdy.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the PBS episode Frontline when they always do when the final presidents, when they're getting close to their election, they release a history of their stuff. And it was incredibly informative about Trump and how he was literally raised to be a bully, and his his brother just couldn't do it. So his father was like, all right, well, screw you. We're going to just go with Donald Trump. And he just bullied his way through school and business. And, obviously he doesn't pay people when he hires them. Just terrible all around. But yeah, I think the only thing new was getting to see the few testimonies. And to me, something has to happen because these people are still affecting our politics. They're still in power. And even why haven't we impeached frippin' what's his name? The SCOTUS.
Terrence Thomas?
Yes. Why haven't
politics? I mean, I don't know. Impeachment is really practically impossible, actually. It's not the most effective political tool because depending who's in power, it's going to definitely influence whether they can even be convicted or not.
Yeah.
If you look throughout American history, I mean, not to mention if you have a president who can literally orchestrate an insurrection and violate the peaceful transfer of power and still not get convicted, I honestly don't see how in the world that can ever happen.
I agree.
Totally agree.
It's crazy.
Yeah, well, no, if somebody studies history, I'm just thinking that, I look at events like January 6th, I'm always thinking short and long-term issues. I never look at an issue. I never look at an incident that just happened on that day. I'm like, well, look at the long-term trajectories. Trump did this in 2016 when he won the presidential election by claiming that there were 3 million fraudulent votes, and even had a committee headed by the former Secretary of State of Kansas, Chris Kobach, to investigate it, and he actually found no evidence of fraudulent votes. And this is when he won. And I remember when a historian who actually works at Princeton but speaks at CNN, and somebody asked him whether the president was going to accept the election results because we've seen what he did when he won. He kind of played it off oh no, it doesn't matter. He'll get arrested if he stays in the White House, but I don't think that's what the person was alluded to. So, you know, a lot of people on the left, on the right, and even on the left are kind of downplaying it, even though there was people on the left for years ringing the alarm bells that something like January 6th would happen.
It is very frustrating, especially like I feel like I've been ringing alarm bells about the male supremacy movement since like 2013. And everyone's like, nah, it's no big deal. And I'm like, what about this mass shooting? What about this one? I definitely like, please pay attention. Nah. Now I'm glad I have my own radio.
It is.
Yeah. But now I have a radio show, so they can't stop me from talking about it. Anybody else want to complain about why Trump's still not in jail?
Oh, that's not. He's the former president. That's not going to happen, probably.
Do we think he's ever going to go to jail?
No,
I don't think so.
He's not going to go. He's never.
I don't see why. I mean,
there was that governor that got
Michigan.
Michigan. He was running for governor. He got arrested because he got tied to the January 6th event.
Yeah. Did you hear? So Brian Kemp won in wherever, Georgia, you know, where he was like, no, there was nothing fraudulent that happened in an election here. He's a Republican. And so they kind of turned their backs on him. And now he won with like 70% of the vote. And even like Trump and pals, because there was another like major Trump supporter trying to run for that primary, and they're like, yeah, that was fraudulent. He cheated. He had 70% of the votes. And so God, I wish I could remember who said it. That My Pillow guy. He said that she actually had a bunch of votes, but they only gave her 5% of the amount of votes she got, which is how they tricked or like the voting booths or whatever, so he could win. Yeah. Why is My Pillow guy still getting on TV?
Yeah,
he's entertaining.
Why do I know who this guy is? Why do I know who this guy is? Like
entertaining.
Run your company in silence.
I mean, it's television. You know, if you see somebody, if he was really had a dull personality, I don't think people would talk to him. But he is this very charismatic, boisterous guy who, you know, you don't take seriously because he's kind of wacko, but it's good for the ratings.
I hate that. I hate that we run on ratings.
That's you probably watch Jon Stewart, The Problem. I forget what it's called, The Problem with something. The Problem with Jon Stewart, his Apple podcast. Yeah. They did have a segment on like the press, on the media, and how people enter it with good intentions, but then they find out that a lot of it is really rating driven. So it's not necessarily what people need to know. It's like what gets us the views.
Yeah, just like the reason we got Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz, the pedophile human trafficker, on TV, because
and he's somehow not the worst Florida politician. Like,
yeah, he is not the worst. DeSantis actually this week, what's the baseball team? The Tampa Rays, they donated a measly $50,000 to like help support school shooting awareness or whatever the charity was. So DeSantis decided to fine them like $30 million or remove it from their facilities and stuff.
Well, he also like strong armed Special Olympics into like undoing their vaccine mandate for performers. And he would say they can't perform in Florida unless they get rid of that mandate. And they end up giving it up.
Yeah, Zach's in Florida. Do you know all of the terrible things he's been doing lately?
I don't want to get into all that. I'll put a list together. I don't have a lot of talking points on there right now.
I heard he backed off on Disney because Disney is very powerful. I'm not sure why he thought he could go up against Disney.
And I think they're trying to portray each other.
They're the most powerful corporation, I think, in the United States. Mm-hmm. I can't think of a close number two, but I think Disney, with the influence they have, with how many businesses they have stakes in a bunch of other companies. Like I don't know who has a bigger influence than them. Maybe Nestle.
Ooh,
that's
you
the only
think
I can
so?
think. Nestle is they control the food. Nestle controls the food. They have a stake.
They definitely have a big control over fresh water supplies.
They do. They've destroyed the water supply in some areas they've been to. It's you've seen the stories. Like I don't think Disney and Nestle are probably the two biggest corporations. I don't know anyone else to compete with them.
Yeah, crazy. Any news stories this week? Like stand out for you, Taressa?
No, honestly, I don't really watch the news or listen to it. Like, not that I don't want to be informed. I do have my 105.9 on, but it's like
you got to take breaks.
Huh?
You got
to. That's what I feel. I'm like, every time I turn the news, is something like so, and there's nothing. Not that the news always needs to be good, but there's nothing, like ever really positive. So it's about this or someone talking about this, or this is going down. I'm like, oh my, like listen to this too much, I'm gonna go crazy. I haven't really listened to like a lot of news. Like I get my news from probably my brother because he's very up on a lot of stuff, and then he'll like suggest stuff that I should watch and everything. But other than that, like
I do want to say the only news station that didn't cover the January 6th committee was Fox News. Because a lot of their talking heads were brought up during the discussion, so they didn't want to have that bad press on their own broadcast.
Yeah, and they had Tucker Carlson run straight for an hour without commercial breaks because they didn't want to lose any audience members for a single second.
Wow.
Yeah, must see TV in Russia. Tucker Carlson.
The Magic got owned by Jon Stewart in 2010.
Yeah.
2008.
The beginning of his evil origin story. Do y'all know this story? So Tucker Carlson was he on CNN?
I think it was CNN.
Yeah, he had this
round.
Go
ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say he had this like little round table discussion, and he wore a little bow tie, and he was like pretty democratic, and he would interview people, but he would say kind of weird, outrageous things. And so Jon Stewart, he was going to interview him on there, and then Jon Stewart gets there and destroys him. He's like, what you're doing is really harmful, and look at you, you look like a child with a little bow tie on, and like you're not giving the truth, and da 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 da. And he didn't have any, like, it looked like he wanted to cry. I
can pull it up.
Yeah, find the clip. Let's watch that clip because it is amazing. And he shortly after left CNN and went to Fox News.
Yeah, this was in 2004.
Yeah, I was thinking it was before.
Okay, I'm about to say 2004. I was in middle school, so I'm like,
oh, really?
Yeah,
I'm 31.
In high school. I mean, yeah.
I'll be 40 in August.
Okay.
I'm pretty.
I thought you were younger. Oh wow.
No, yeah, no. I prefer to look good for my age than look younger for my age because it took me nearly 40 years as a woman to get the amount of respect a 40-year-old woman deserves. Like, I don't want the amount of respect a 25-year-old woman gets. You know what I mean? I'm sure you know what I mean, Taressa.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean. I can't get no respect. I look too young.
Yeah. It's tough going backwards. Sometimes I just like look as terrible as I can.
All right, I have to do stuff on mine to actually share it. I'll give you the link real quick so you can share it on yours. I'd have to install some stuff and restart Zoom, and I'm not doing that. So I'll just drop the link. I'll drop the link in chat, and you can do it.
Okay, just stop your share, and then that'll be fine.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to see this origin story because it's only like a couple minutes long, right?
2 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, I read most of my news. I don't watch it.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of watching things anymore either.
I read it. That's what I read. NPR.
I
listen to NPR, but
seriously, I just get tired of the lies. Like I used to be so invested in, like Chicago. I'm like, oh yeah, this, that. Yeah, when we get these, like this money, all these streets are going to be cleaned and, all this stuff. And I'm like, driving down the street, my mom done lost 2 tires on the street. I'm like, really? I am done with all. you can't even keep a straight face. You can't keep, money goes missing. Nobody knows where it is. And then it's like, instead of telling us what's really going on, the next news is like complete bullcrap. And it's like, this is what I turned on the news for. So that's why I don't really.
Yeah. And they report on such a narrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like BBC. I like NPR. Sometimes I'll check into Al Jazeera.
It's like, this is important, but it's not that important that we have to do the whole story. I'm like, then don't tell me nothing, I'm good not knowing.
All right. So here's Jon Stewart on Tucker Carlson's Crossfire.
Welcome back to Crossfire. We're talking to Jon Stewart, who was just lecturing us on our moral inferiority. John, you're bumming us out. Tell us, what do you think of the Bill O'Reilly vibrator story?
Moral inferiority.
Sorry? I don't. I'm here to confront you because we need help from the media, and they're hurting us. I made a special effort to come on the show today because I have mentioned this show as being bad. It's not so much that it's bad as it's hurting America. So I wanted to come here today and say,
wait.
Here's just what I wanted to tell you guys.
Yeah.
Stop. Stop hurting America. Okay. I watch your show every day, and it kills me.
I can tell you love it.
It's so painful to watch. Your partisan, what do you call it? Hacks.
Wait, John,
a responsibility to the public discourse. And you fail miserably.
I think you're a good comedian. I think your lectures are boring.
You're on CNN. The show that leads into me is puppets making crank phone calls. What is wrong with you? It's someone who watches your show and cannot take it anymore. I just can't.
You need to get a job at a
miserably.
School, I think.
You need to go to one. Now, this is theater. I mean, it's obvious. How old are you?
35.
And you wear a bow tie.
Yeah, I do. I do think you're more fun on your show. Just my opinion.
But
Jon Stewart goes, what I want with his fans.
You're as big a dick on your show as you are on any show.
Yeah, I've seen that before from years ago. I remember seeing that clip.
Yes. Oh man. And that's his evil villain origin story.
He's gotten worse.
Yeah.
Worse since then.
Yeah. I am so pro free speech, but I am also pro consequences for that free speech. And I don't think that we see enough consequences, obviously, because if we can't get any of these people in jail for inciting an insurrection that resulted in the murder of police officers, what are the consequences, and I think that if social media doesn't take more steps, then they're going to start regulating it through Congress, because I just don't think that they're going to leave it up to them to do it much longer, since they're failing.
There's a lack of ethics in the way social media companies are running. It is a problem, and they're not doing enough to address it.
Yeah, I mean, the free market, you're supposed to be able to trust that they will do what they can to protect the public. And instead, we have rabbit holes on YouTube that lead to radicalization. We have, wrong and hate speech spread on Facebook that allows groups to unite and commit mass murder was it Myanmar?
Oh, yeah, they use on Facebook. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, there's ways on various social medias for all these groups to find each other, and it's just.
Man, it's probably going to get worse because social media is still something that's in its infancy. So I don't really think many people, including the federal government, have a strong idea of how it works and its long-term effects. In fact, not to go back to the whole manosphere, but one thing I always been critical is when people try to separate what they hear on social media and how they conduct themselves in real life, because I don't really think you can separate the two. You can't watch content hours upon hours every day and think it has no effect on you and your actual life. It doesn't work like that.
But I would argue it's not in its infancy. We're on our 4th decade of the internet.
No, I'm talking about social media personally.
Social media. I mean, AOL was social media. I was on that in '94.
Oh, well, no, it's not. I don't think it's as prevalent, too. I mean, I think Facebook and Twitter definitely made it more prevalent in terms of the number of users who are on it compared to the AOL and those old chat forums.
I think it's going close to 20 years now. I'd say
Well,
that.
internet usually 90s, 1990s. Right?
Yeah.
I remember I got a home computer in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
I still have my one of my email addresses is still my original email address from 1994. It's basically just full of spam now, and I almost never go through it, but it's there for a purpose.
No, I still remember my AOL email.
Do you still have it open?
I'm not sure. I don't think I remember the password, but I'm sure it's still probably open. You know how you can pick stuff to go in there. I don't know if they still do that. When I signed up with Gmail, and they didn't have that. But I remember when you first open it, it's like, oh, what would you like? And you picked everything you want to. I picked everything. So mine is just filled up where it probably can't even get nothing else anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure stuff probably still comes because I know like some people still use like AOL. I think like just a couple years ago, it was like some of us were exchanging emails, and I was like, "Oh, you're on Hotmail? Wait, you got AOL? You still? Do you just go to the email, or do you have the whole AOL thing?" I was like, just blown away.
Yeah, and you still have your MySpace too.
Oh, I still got my MySpace. Yes, I still got that. I love MySpace better than Facebook.
I know, it was so much better.
So,
no.
I never had one.
MySpace was just like your space. You can put your stuff, you can decorate your wall. You just go in there and it's your space. I mean, when I first got on Facebook, it was just a college thing, like, oh, well, this is how I talk to my class. I'm still using my college ID for it. My college, sign in for my Facebook.
The only reason I switched to Facebook is because when I was in the Navy, they blocked MySpace, but from being able to use MySpace. So we all switched to Facebook, and somehow they still allowed that.
I was saying MySpace, they have that list where you can rank your friends so they know where they stand in your life.
You're number 3.
Like, oh, I'm not your top 6 no more, huh?
You rank your top 6 and you're not in any of them.
And it's a big blank spot. It's not even like the other ones to scoot over. It's like it's just empty.
It was brutal. But
if you keep messing up, you'll go down further.
I know, right?
So for my Black Lives Matter segment, I like to try to include, news that is specifically about Black issues. I wanted to bring up that the Justice Department is now investigating the Louisiana State Police. They found significant justification to launch the investigation, which I'm honestly not sure why it took so long. And I think it was the story of Ronald Green in 2019, but I don't know why they waited since 2019. If you don't remember Ronald Green, he was stopped for an unspecific traffic violation. Like they couldn't even, but it led to a low speed chase. There was suggestion that maybe he was confused. He didn't realize he was being pulled over. And finally, when they did, they beat him. A trooper in the video found him. They beat the ever-loving F out of him. They choked him and everything else to get him under control. He was already in handcuffs. He was face down on the ground. There's video of them dragging him. It was horrific. So the fact that it's taken 3 years for the Department of Justice to finally come in and investigate Louisiana State Police, I don't understand, but I'm glad they finally are, because it seems like they are one of the most horrific state police when it comes to brutality.
I didn't follow that story, so this is all new to me. Now, of course, the police department is being under federal investigation. That's nothing new, I think.
That's nothing, yes.
The Albuquerque Police Department, I know they've been under federal investigation since at least 2014, I think. I can't recall exactly when it started. Of course, I read the report about the Baltimore Police Department by the DOJ.
Yes, 3 years in a row, repeat of what happened to the gentleman who was in the back of
Freddie Gray.
Freddie Gray. That had happened 2 other times, exactly the same.
Yeah, but that wasn't the only thing. Another thing the police department did in Baltimore is that they would rob civilians of cash, so they would pull them over and pocket the money.
Jeez.
And there were police officers that went to jail, lost their jobs because of that. And that happened before the rise in 2015.
Was that what The Wire? Is that the city The Wire was based on?
Yeah, which I never watched, but that's the shit. It's based on Baltimore.
He's actually got a new show that's about the guy
Blake Omar.
TP.
Do what?
David Simon has a new show that's on HBO. Kind of similar to The Wire. He's the one who did The Wire. We Own This City.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing
I
the review.
heard about that, yeah.
Yeah, I think it looked pretty good too. What was it about The Wire that you didn't want to watch? Did you say you're from Baltimore?
No.
Oh, Cleveland?
I'm not from Cleveland. I just moved here in January. No, so I went to 8 different high schools in 3 different states. So
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I'm mostly from Pennsylvania, but I lived in New York, South Carolina, and Florida.
Which one was your favorite?
Well, only reason I say Pennsylvania because that's where I was born and mostly raised.
Yeah.
Also, when you live in Miami at 16, there's not a lot you can do.
Real. Oh yeah.
Yeah, true. I just didn't like how hot it got. I wasn't used to that.
Yeah, I feel you.
I think the warm over the cold.
I feel you.
Yeah, but other than that, no, I'm not from Baltimore. I will say one thing, because I was actually talking to a historian, Elizabeth Hinton, who's a professor now at Yale. She was at Harvard, but now she's at Yale. He's kind of talking about how whenever it comes to police reform, there tends to be a hyper focus on major cities when most Americans live in cities with around 100,000 people. So a lot of mid-sized and small-town police departments often kind of they kind of skirt behind these investigations that actually should be done because they can just be just as problematic as large police departments like my hometown, Allentown, Pennsylvania, which has, I think, $5 million within the last couple of years in terms of lawsuits that they distribute.
Whoa.
Yeah, well, at least they're paying it back. In Mississippi, they just won't investigate anything they don't feel like investigating and call it case closed.
No, that happens a lot. I mean, Jelani Cobbs did a documentary on the Newark Police Department and actually followed a group of police officers as they patrol the streets at night. And he found a discrepancy in terms of what he saw and what the camera even captured versus what was officially reported in the police files.
Yeah, it happens a lot, particularly, obviously, in minority communities. I don't know if y'all have heard the stories of Peter Spencer or Jason Walker. Won't get into them too much right now because I feel like I already talked about a pretty horrific traffic stop. But yeah, it's since we've been able to start filming these things, it has made it so much more apparent. And I'm really hoping for police reform sometime.
I'm kind of pessimistic.
Yeah.
I'm just a historian. So, I know the funny thing, actually, in the 1960s, there was a group that formed in the east side of San Jose, California, called the United People Arriba, which later became the Community Alert Patrol. And they actually developed the idea that they would have to film police brutality for people to believe them, which I came across accidentally while doing. I wrote about it briefly in an op-ed for Al Jazeera, and I came across it accidentally when I was doing archival research in San Jose. But the interesting thing about police brutality today is that if you look at press reports in the past, they largely just dismissed the issue as hogwash. It doesn't exist. As people are exaggerating. Northern police officers are incredibly nice.
That's true.
The Chicago
would never do that. What are you talking about?
The Chicago Tribune, after the Division Streets riots in northwest side of Chicago and the Puerto Rican community, they actually wrote an op-ed saying that Northern police officers bent over backward with dealing with minorities. So, throughout the 60s and 70s and 80s, when I was reading these reports, you always see that police brutality, and people just not believing it as a thing. So the fact that people now admit it is quite, I won't say revolutionary, but it's definitely a reversal from past attitudes about the issue.
Yeah, in the past, they admitted, but no one cared because, your peers and everything were, no offense, white people and probably racist people, but
no offense taken. Absolutely true.
And that's why I think, like, you know, even when stuff was recorded on video, it just didn't really matter. And I remember, you know, like hearing when I was younger, because, you know, like when we were younger in school, I don't know if this happened with you, Rachel, but, you know, police officers would come and visit your school. Yeah, you know, the whole DARE thing going on. And you got to know
which drugs to want and which ones I shouldn't ask for.
Yeah, how to ask for them, and, you know, like how to spot the cop cars. Like, but yeah, I remember that. And then, like, getting older, I remember they saying like something like, oh, well, you know, like the police officers who are in your community, they're not going to be in your community, they're going to go to another community. And I'm like, well, that makes no sense, because if you're more in your community, you know, you have more, you know, sincerity towards people, you know, and you go over somewhere else, you don't have that sincerity over there. You like looking at everything, which you should look at everything like, this is your job, you need to protect people. So if someone's doing something bad, wrong, you know, take care of it. But the sincerity is not with it. If, you know, you take your people, you know, like you would know, you can meet at the grocery store and everything, you can understand their situation. Other than these people who are over here having the same problem, they have the same situation, but there's no compassion, because it's like, oh, now I'm a robot, I don't care and I don't know you, so now I gotta give you the full force of, you know, my badge.
Yeah, I agree. I think both police should be only policing their own communities. That's what I grew up with, and they were really nice, and you could wave them down and ask them questions and stuff, and they were there really fast. And I also think that Congress
and everything, yeah, they came to the carnival. They helped, you got to dunk them, and like,
you know where they lived. Yeah. And the other thing, I think Congress people should also only run in districts where they've lived for at least a year, and they just don't do that. But
where do Chicago police live? Just curious.
Where
where did the Chicago police live? Because I do agree that police should live in the same city they serve, but in most cases they tend to congregate in the same neighborhoods. Like, you know, New York City, 75% of police officers live in Staten Island. In Cleveland, most police officers live on the far west end of the city.
Oh. Yeah. I don't know. Do you know where they are, Taressa?
No, I'm not sure. I never came across I know where the police station is, but I don't know where a cop lives or anything. Like,
yeah.
And maybe a couple of retired cops, I've seen them around, and they told me they've moved back. So, you know, I'm not going to say, well, where'd you live before? You know, it's kind of suspicious. But
yeah.
You know.
Well, we are at time. Sorry, I didn't keep track of it as well. So let's go ahead and get everybody to plug yourselves and let everybody know where to find you. And I will be dropping it in the doobly-doo of the YouTube. But yeah, Aaron?
Oh, okay. So I am active on social media. So you can follow me on Twitter at Aaron Fountain Jr. That's my app. That's my app sign. I'm just going to be forewarned. I just share news articles. So you're going to see a lot of boring stuff. If you're not into that.
What do you expect from a history degree?
I'm
just kidding. Sounds interesting to me. I was just teasing.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Taressa.
Even though I'm on Facebook, I'm not really always on Facebook. Like, the social media to me is just like somewhere I go for looking for acting jobs or, you know, like theater stuff. But other than that, yeah, I'm not really on any social media. I'm on Instagram, but I don't do nothing. I don't even have. I have 6 pictures up there, and I don't think any of them have my face in them.
You're a person who just lives in the moment and lives life and not wasting all the time on social media.
True. I do like taking it, and I used to be so active back in the day, like when probably like 2017 is when I probably stopped. They're just not interested no more. Maybe it'll come back and I'll post pictures and be more active. Like, no, I don't see a reason.
Yeah. Zach.
You can find me on Twitter at Straw Hat Zach. I mostly talk about how much Ted Cruz sucks and One Piece.
Yeah.
I also find me on TikTok, same handle, and my podcast that I run with Rachel, Cousins is Critiquing Content, and we are hopefully will be releasing some more content here soon.
Yeah, got a little behind with some vacation stuff happening. Yeah, great. I'm Rachel Bloomstrom, and you have been listening to In Other News. I did want to point out what we have coming next week is Mariana Streleski. She just recently received her PhD from, I believe it was Columbia University in New York. She's going to be presenting information on her dissertation. We're calling the segment Everyday Life Can Be a Scary Stage, Theater Tools for Coping and Why We All Need Them. So she is focused on a theater background and how they can use those things in therapy and how therapeutic they can be. I don't know too much about the subject, so we'll all learn together. And then the week after, we will be going back to the male supremacy movement. As I mentioned, we'll be discussing incels and PUAs. And until then, thank you everybody for coming. And here's for this week's music, local music. I decided to choose my own. So here is one of my songs as we go out, and I'll see you next time in Other News. All right, we are off the radio air, and let me stop our